Algier out to the 35. This time London. He held on. He's on the slip through and score. Bates talking. Jesse Bates interception. 15, 10, 5, drive home safely.
Falcons fans, what's up? And welcome back to Falcons Final Whistle. I am back. I'm your host, Will McFadden. I want to give a big shout out to Tori and Taryn for filling in for me while I was away on paternity leave. My wife and I welcomed our second child the day of the Miami Dolphins game. So I've been out of pocket for the last couple of weeks, just getting to know the little guy, spending some quality bonding time. At some point in his life, I will have to let him know that he ushered in a little bit of a losing streak here. So we're going to have a talk about that. But that time is way in the future. For right now, we have to dig into Atlanta's 25-31 loss to the Indianapolis Colts. It is not the outcome anybody wanted, right? And I'm going to start up top here, just kind of explaining why it is a little bit frustrating, I think, for Falcons fans in particular. But before we get into that, I just want to give a quick reminder. If you're new to the show here, first off, welcome. We love having you. We do 4 quarters. Each quarter is going to be 6 minutes. We'll hear a whistle at the end of every quarter. Tori is going to join me from Berlin. She was at the game in Germany. I was not, again, hanging out with a little guy here. But we're going to hear from her second and third quarters. And then Jared is going to jump on in the fourth quarter to join me. So again, 6 minutes per quarter. We got whistles. We got stats. We got opinions. And we're ready to get going. So let's start the clock on our first quarter. And yeah, so 25-31 loss. I think they did some good things, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But look, the main takeaway here is that you dropped to 3-6 and that your chances of making the postseason are getting pretty slim, right? At this point last year, you're 6-3. And so, of course, it is feasible to have a turnaround. You know, like things can change here. They're not dead in the water just yet. But for all of the joy and the optimism last year, sitting at 6-3, coming off of Kirktober, it kind of feels the opposite for the Falcons right now. And understandably so. It feels as though for every time they get something corrected and worked out, another issue pops up. And today it was, as it was last week, the third down offense. Falcons were 0 of 8 on third down. They had more manageable, I think, opportunities in that area, but it felt very boom or busty from the offense. You had big plays, you had explosive plays. I think they had 15 plays of 10 or more yards in this game, and they were getting their shots. It's just the moments where they have to kind of march all the way down the field, it does feel like they'll hit a hiccup a time or two. And against a team like the Indianapolis Colts, who are now 8-2 and one of the best teams and a very good team. When I was watching them throughout kind of like my preparation, the team they reminded me the most of were the early Matt Ryan Falcons. Kind of after Dirk Cutter came here and you had Roddy White and you had Julio and the running backs that they mixed in and out, it was, and Tony G, like that was an offense that could go a lot of different places, that felt like it had an identity, that felt very confident. And I think the Colts are the exact same way. And I really liked what Atlanta did to them. They made this Colts team look more kind of confused and discombobulated on offense than I've seen any other team do this year. The game it reminded me the most of from this season was the Denver Broncos game against the Indianapolis Colts early on in the year, which was like a heavyweight fight. So again, the Falcons have shown the ability to be there, but that is why I think this one is frustrating, because yet again, you were right there. You did play like the better team at times. You had the lead late in the fourth quarter, and you end up on the wrong side in the final outcome. And it is reminiscent of week 1 against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And honestly, having grown up here in Atlanta for the longest time, it has been a story of getting close and being right there with all of the rest of the kind of like big dogs. And at times, the Falcons have definitely been a big dog, but more often than not, it feels like you kind of fall just a little bit short. And over a period of time, yeah, I know that frustration builds within the fan base. And today was an opportunity where you saw the Falcons start out early, kind of they answer that Colts first drive. And I thought they looked so impressive, right? They had Drake London involved. They had Kyle Pitts involved. They had both running backs involved, the offensive line dealing with some injuries throughout the week. I thought they were moving the ball really well against a good Colts defense. So this one was not so much like a hey, the Colts are a better team, tip your hat to them. This was always going to be a tough task. This was a chance to really, I think, make another statement, which we've seen them do before. And so it leaves them at a point where they've got to fix it, and they've got to fix it kind of right now, whatever it is. In the history of the NFL postseason, which is beginning in 1933, only 10 teams have started 3-6 or worse and eventually made the postseason, right? So the last team, actually, there were two teams in 2023 that did this, the Green Bay Packers and the Los Angeles Rams, right? So it is doable, but it's very hard. And that is where, if you're the Falcons, like, I think they are a team capable of doing something like this, because the pieces that they have in place are talented enough to go and beat a Bills team. They are talented enough to really handle a Washington Commanders team, right? And they are good enough to go on the road and go toe-to-toe with the Patriots and the Colts, who, again, have the best record in the league right now. So this team is capable of it. They just need to figure out how to put all of these pieces together and get them to stay that way, right? It can't be a quarter of excellence and then 2 quarters of kind of taking a step back. And then, 5 minutes of an amazing drive, and then you kind of give up a big play defensively, and it feels like that momentum went away. So I know I'm just basically explaining football, right? There's a reason that this is such a difficult sport. It's because you have 11 guys that you have to get all in sync, all in concert, working together to do something really difficult and challenging, all while 11 guys on the other side are being coordinated to do everything they can to stop you, right? So the Falcons have the talent to be able to beat other good teams. The chemistry, the coordination, whatever is not there yet to do it consistently, to maintain these drives, to maintain these games, and ultimately weather these ebbs and flows of momentum that are taking place. I think the Falcons are right there, and they're knocking on the door. But at this point, we can't say that they are going to walk through it, because they have been kind of right there, in my opinion, the last couple of weeks. And I understand the Falcons fans' frustration with what they have seen, because you had the opportunities, and once again, it just kind of came up wrong for you and on the other side of the win-loss column. So let's go ahead and get into the second quarter. We're going to welcome Tori McElhaney on from Berlin, and let's keep it rolling. Guten Tori. We are now joined by Tori McElhaney, who is joining us from Berlin, live there for the game. Tori, what was the environment at Olympic Stadium?
It was pretty crazy. I mean, I went to London 2 years ago, and now to see Berlin, Germany, and how much this fan base truly is craving NFL football, and just the excitement was kind of untouched, I feel like, in terms of how much growth there could be internationally here, because it was a packed house. People were excited. It was loud. I mean, they sang Country Roads. I
saw them doing the wave on TV.
Yeah, they did the wave. It was, I mean, the whole
thing. Looked like a good wave.
I have nothing but good things to say about the game's atmosphere. I have some things maybe not so good to say about the game itself.
Yeah, that's unfortunately, like, we can't spend more time talking about. I had all these questions about, just the experience over there. But
yeah,
after this loss, it doesn't feel like it's appropriate really to spend so much time on that, because with a performance, and we'll start with the offense, particularly like they had today, where there were opportunities, but once again, it's just kind of setting yourself back, shooting yourself in the foot. The Falcons, were 0 of 8 on third down. They averaged under 5 yards a play. They were held under 300 yards. The Colts gained 519 total yards. So offensively, Tori, for Atlanta, what did you make of them today?
It was good in spurts and not good in others. I mean, that sounds pretty lame to say in terms of by way of explanation, but it's true. The Falcons in and of themselves need to be better on third down. You can't go 0 for 8 and expect to win at this level, especially against a team that was going to score. You knew going into this game that the Colts were going to score. You knew that they were going to get theirs. And so I think the fact that the Falcons had opportunities to answer and didn't, and potentially went 3 and out, or couldn't convert, couldn't put points on the board, it's not a recipe for success. And it hasn't been over the course of the last 4 losses, considering that now the Falcons' third down conversion rate, I believe, drops to around 22%. And that's just, it's not good enough.
that is very low. And you can't even with plays from Kyle Pitts, even with plays from Drake London today, like there were, like you said, moments, it felt like it was a little all or nothing for Atlanta. They were either getting like a first down or like a 2-yard gain. I know you just came from Raheem Morris's press conference. What did he have to say about that side of the ball?
It was basically similar to what I said about these third downs continue to be something that you talk about, and you can't be in a situation where you're talking about it to the extent that you are, and they have to figure it out. I think that I even asked him on Monday, like, hey, what are actionable steps that this staff, this team is taking in order to be better on third down? And then it shows up again. Also, I'm going to get off because Mike is walking in the room.
That was kind of the perfect time, Tori, for, I guess, Michael Penix to come to the podium. What did he have to say about today's offensive performance?
I think that was the most dejected and downtrodden I have seen Michael Penix maybe ever.
Oh, wow.
He's not a man of many words. He's often said that about himself, but this was a really difficult press conference. He was very emotional, not emotional, but like you could tell that he was really carrying this loss on himself. He said he wasn't good enough. He was frustrated with the performance. I asked him about third down, and he kind of said, that has to be better. It starts with him. And then I also kind of, it felt like it was a really, it was downtrodden. It was very heavy. And so I did try. I was like, hey, I know you probably don't want to talk about this, but, since your start in week 16 last year, there's a stat that says no wide receiver quarterback duo has more yards than you and Drake do. And he just straight up just was like, that doesn't matter. We didn't win this game. And to that, fair. And I think that this loss is weighing very, very heavy on him just based off of the 3-4 minutes that he just came in.
I'll speak for myself very quickly. We obviously see the positives of Michael Penix, right? The arm strength, the ability to kind of make these throws, but there are some areas of his game where, whether it be kind of moving a little too quickly at times, I think through his progressions and when he drops back, some of the intentional groundings when he does get pressure and buying stuff out of structure. Are you surprised that we have not seen more progression and development in some of these areas of being an NFL quarterback from him now past the halfway point?
Potentially, but the thing is I thought the opposite last week against the Patriots. I did feel like he was more comfortable. I did feel like he was getting through his progressions. But I think that's the point of a young rookie quarterback. You're going to have those
consistently
days.
Inconsistent.
Exactly, and I mean that's just kind of where he is right now. And I know he's still in his first true year as a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I think that what you're talking about is a prime example of that youth in the league showing up.
And we expected it to show up, right, Tori?
Exactly.
When we were talking about it before the season, we knew this was coming. It just is hard to live through it, and especially having it cost you a game like today and, at times kind of other. So the Falcons, we've seen positives, but offensively, there's clear work to be done. That's going to do it for our second quarter. We're going to move into halftime. And Tori, you're going to go hear from Jesse Bates, and we'll catch up with you in just a second.
Awesome. See y'all soon, or hear y'all soon.
All right, let's head into the locker room for a real quick halftime regroup presented by Microsoft Copilot. We've got it would have been a much better stat if the Falcons had held on to win today's game, but it's still representative, I think, of the work on the defensive side of the ball and the turnaround, which frankly, nobody, would have expected me to say this sentence this time last year. The Falcons now have 5 or more sacks in 3 games this season, which is tied for their most amount of games in any season in franchise history. So again, we came into this year knowing the defense had to get fixed, especially the pass rush. And through what has it been, 9 games? They have a chance to have their best season in terms of multi 5+ sack games. They are, on pace to put up one of their best sack seasons, I think, in franchise history. So the pass rush has definitely turned around. I really liked the energy we saw Jalen Walker and James Pierce get involved again today. So the offense we just talked about with Tori, there's some work to do, but defensively, I really like what Jeff Holbrook has done to this unit, especially with their number one issue, which was the pass rush. I don't think we can call it an issue anymore. So that is our halftime stat brought to you by Microsoft Copilot. Let's get into our third quarter, and I have a feeling we're going to keep talking about Atlanta's defense. Moving into the third quarter, Tori is back with me. Tori, let's talk about the defense. I think if you look at just the box score and you kind of look at some of the totals for Indianapolis's offense, you may come away being like, yep, the league's best offense did it yet again. However, on the field, I feel like Atlanta's defense played really well. They deserve to win this game. What were your thoughts on the defense performance?
Yeah, up until that 83-yard touchdown run by Jonathan Taylor, I really did feel like the defense played well enough to, one, keep this offense in the game, keep the team in the game, but also win the game. I mean, I think that they had, I'm trying to think what it was, but held the Colts to being 17% on third down conversion.
Yeah, there were 2 of 12. The
2
Colts
of 12. Yeah. So I, got off the field. They had sacks. They had turnovers. Like, those are the 3 things that if you're a defense and you're playing against the number 1 scoring offense in the league, if you come away being like, yeah, they had like 6 sacks and they had a couple turnovers and, they got off the field, it truly did feel like this defense was performing to a clip that we've, 1, come to know them to perform at, but also 2, especially in the first 3 quarters, you're like, all right, like they're giving this offense a chance to win this game. And again, that's why, going back to what we were talking about in the second quarter, that's why those third downs that the Falcons offense weren't converting are so detrimental to what even the defense was doing. Because I believe, like, when there was a turnover on downs, when there was a turnover in and of itself, and the defense gets the ball back to the offense, it's like, it just felt like they weren't doing anything off of that, which really stresses your defense against a team that is going to give the ball to Jonathan Taylor, and he's going to get significant yards. You just know that's in the game plan.
Yeah, it's has a compounding effect, right? Because your defense starts out hot. If they have kind of a momentum swinging play, but you're not then able to do anything with it, not only does it kind of deal you a little bit of a moral blow, or it's demoralizing, but you also put your defense right back out there, and over the course of 4 quarters and going into overtime, it's probably going to wear them down a little bit. They're also undermanned. They came into today's game missing Mike Hughes. They've dealt with some injuries. Obviously, Divine Diablo is out. So this was a short-staffed group. And yet, I did think that they made the splash plays. They made the situational plays down in the red zone, in the short yardage, mentioned 2 for 12. But I'm looking right now at Jonathan Taylor's total, which somehow I missed until just this moment. Oh, my God. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
32 carries, 244 for 3 touchdowns?
Yeah, I mean, that does tell the story. 83 of those yards come on 1 run. But, True. I mean, that's, neither here nor there. The still would be giving up about over 150 rushing yards to him. But he's the best running back in the league right now. Again, like, you knew coming in what the game plan was. You knew what they were wanting to do, and you knew they've been able to do that in multiple different ways against multiple different teams. And that's what's so, I think, frustrating too, is like, you knew this, you knew what they wanted to do, you knew who they wanted to be, and yet it still didn't work. And I think that's, we talk about run defense all the time, and it's a part of this defense that you thought had gotten better over the last couple of weeks, but then you get to today and it's like kind of bit you in the butt yet again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we thought that the run game had kind of been not solved necessarily, the run defense, but that they had made some strides in that area. And of course, we just went over the numbers for Jonathan Taylor. Today the Colts could kind of get whatever they wanted to on the ground. But as I've said before, like, I do feel like the offense plays a role in that. And just like their inability to kind of capitalize off some of these turnovers, these defensive stands, by not putting up points, you allowed the Colts to just turn around and hand the ball off to Jonathan Taylor all day long, and he never made them one-dimensional. Did it feel like that just throughout the game to you as well?
Yes, it did. Also, guys, I'm not going to be able to record this because now I'm being told that our departure time is moving up to 8:10, and that's in 7 minutes. I'm so sorry. Oh my God.
Third quarter is coming to a close early. Actually, I think we should leave all this in. This is amazing. Bye,
Oh my
Tori.
God. Okay, bye. I'm so sorry.
The life of a show woman. All right. Well, we had a quick ending to the third quarter there. And I'm going to welcome on our producer, Jared, to chat with me in the fourth quarter. But yeah, it was a real life look at what we kind of go back and forth with to record these shows, especially when Tori is on the road. And I mean, could you be any further away than Germany right now? So they had some travel speed ups, it seems like, happening. They're getting out of there. And so she had to wrap things up. But Jared, thanks for hopping on with me and taking her place. It's, not the greatest game for us to chat about, but what were your overall thoughts on today's performance?
You mentioned this earlier, Will. It sucks so bad that it doesn't matter how close you are, because last week in New England, this week in Germany, it's been right there for the taking. Just one tiny little thing goes a different way, and you walk out of here these 2 weeks 2-0, right, against the two best teams in the NFL by record, and it sucks. 1 point short, 6 points in overtime short. Like,
yep.
There isn't really anything else to say except this sucks.
And like, those are the margins in this league, right? And it's why, because you're completely right. It's excusable to lose 2 games essentially on the road against two of the best teams in the AFC, right? Which is why it is much more difficult, in my opinion, to stomach the losses earlier in the year to Carolina and Miami, right? When the Carolina loss happened, you're able to write it off as an outlier as long as you keep winning games. When you don't, then it's a very real loss on your schedule. And now you're sitting here at 3-6. And man, wouldn't it be nice to be 4-5? Wouldn't it be great to be 5-4 if you had won the Miami game as well? So good teams take care of the games that they are supposed to on their schedule, because this is the league and anything can happen, and a bad team can beat a good team, and a good team, can go toe to toe with another good team and lose in overtime. And it's like, that is where you, at the end of the day, are what your record says you are. But the frustrating part is that the Falcons feel as though they should be better than what their record is right now.
Right. And like you said, imagine you show up against Carolina and Miami, you beat those teams, you're 5-4 or 4-5. The growth that we've seen from this team in the last couple of weeks and across the season, like, you can tell that there are steps being made. But like you said, you are what your record says you are, and it feels like it doesn't matter that this team is growing and improving, that the defense is worlds different than it was last year. It feels like it doesn't matter because of those 2 losses. And moving here down the stretch, it's great to see this improvement, but now that mountain is so much taller to climb in order to get to where you want to go, to the playoffs, to have a winning record again. It's just so much harder now because of those slip-ups early in the year when you were still learning with this young roster. It's a tough pill to swallow at this point.
It absolutely is. And I like what you said about the kind of improvements that they have made, because the red zone has not been an issue for Atlanta at all offensively the last couple of games. They were 3 for 3 in the red zone. Today it is a good turnaround, and yet it feels like this is, I apologize, a tortured cliche, but that for every hole in the boat that they plug, kind of another one pops up. And again, the time is dwindling here for you to be able to fill enough of these holes and kind of keep the boat on the water. So Jared, let's take a quick look at like what the Falcons have coming up next, because I think that this next 3-game stretch is well, I'm just going to say it is the most important 3-game stretch for Atlanta the rest of the season, and maybe the entire season. And it's not going to be, a murderer's row here, but that is why it is so important. You've got the Carolina Panthers at home, then you're on the road against the New Orleans Saints, and you're on the road against the New York Jets. You need to go 3-0, I think, in those games to keep this season on the rails. What do you say?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been debating it for the last couple of weeks. Like, is it crunch time? Is it not? I mean, the teams are so good. It is crunch time now. It is official. It is crunch time. You have to win these next 3 games. And I wish that we could feel confident about it, but we saw what happened in the first game against Carolina. Then we thought, okay, everything was fixed. Then we saw what happened against Miami, whose only win was over the New York Jets. So, like, you can't rule these games out. You can't say, okay, we're going to go on a 3-game run here, and then we'll come back into the Seattle game, and we'll be a different team. We'll have a lot of momentum, and let's make a push for the playoffs. I don't know if you can say that with confidence right now. You can say absolutely that's possible. Like, we've seen this team ceiling, at 100% that's possible. But as a fan, you can't expect that right now.
All right, let's play a quick game here then before we get out of here, called like the reason why and the reason why not. All right, so I want to throw this to you first. I'll come up with my reasons, but the Falcons do make the playoffs in 2025. What is the reason why?
Because they show up every single Sunday. We've seen what happens when the Falcons show up every single Sunday. They show up, they can go toe-to-toe with the best teams in the NFL. If they make the playoffs, that's why.
Okay. I think that's the consistency element, right, is absolutely the most important thing, because it's what we haven't seen yet. So I will say to me, it starts with Michael Penix and with this passing game. I think if you can see him throw maybe 15 touchdown passes, 20 touchdown passes over this, that's a lot, right? But if that passing game can get going, I really do think that's the last glass ceiling the Falcons got to break through here this season. So let's flip it around, Jared. Why not? Why won't the Falcons make the playoffs in 2025?
Unfortunately, and I hate to say this, I hate to say this, if the Falcons don't make the playoffs, it's because of the Carolina and the Miami losses. I
agree.
I think you could play your best football down the stretch here and not make the playoffs, and it's because of those two games that you dropped that you absolutely should have won.
I think that's definitely a main factor, and I will take it one step further, and I will say it's because of what you pointed out with that inconsistency. Right now, the Falcons feel like a team that plays to the level of its opponent. When they play a good team, a playoff team from last year, they're in every game. They have a chance to win these games. When they are playing teams that are looked upon as kind of being lower in the standings, or just factually are lower in the standings, we don't seem to get the best performance out of them. So that is something that I think the team has to figure out and look at. And it starts internally. It starts with players in the locker room, and they have to figure out, how do we show up every single week, and how do we string things together and not have these inconsistent bouts? Anything else you want to add before we get out of here, Jared?
Just that it is crunch time. Now is winning time. You have to win these next 3 games, and if you drop one of them, then the ship has sailed, I think.
Yep. All right. Well, guys, I wish I knew more German, because I could probably throw a lot of German words out here and sound angry and all of that, but I don't. It's a little bit of a deflating loss because they had their moments in this game to win it against a very, very good team. And the Falcons have continued to show flashes. They just haven't been able to put it all together, and time is running out for them to do just that. So thank you all so much for listening. We will be back with Falcons Audible midweek, and then we got the Friday 5 dropping on Friday morning for you all. A big thank you to Tori and Taryn for stepping in while I was away on paternity leave. So I hope you enjoyed those two the last couple of weeks. They did an amazing job. But again, thank you to Tori, thank you to Jared today, and we will see you all next time.